Alright, what's up? We back once again. This is Samira TV.
Samira TV, this is Facebook.
I'm gonna put it on my YouTube though.
Okay.
But anyways,
You start cutting up as soon as you cut the video on.
so y'all know we promote optimal health is wealth, and I know the last few videos that I've uploaded, it's been about healing, generational curses, and we're just gonna, turn the corner, turn the page a little bit, and part of our journey to optimal health is we like to incorporate different texts, different readings, and so, we thought it'd be pretty cool if we read the close reading, which is the book that we're covering in my rhetorical criticism class. Once again, my major is communication, and it's just something that we're incorporating that aids in helping a lot of things as far as my communication skills, my reading skills, comprehension, and
Relationships, because the book's called Techniques of Close Reading.
techniques of close reading
So let's get it.
on our journey to optimal health. Okay. Chapter 1, on noticing what you see and hear. Recently, I went to an amusement park outside of San Antonio, down the road from where I live. Take a look at figure 1.1, a photograph of a sign near the entrance to a particular scary roller coaster. It's the kind of thing you might glance at and not give a second thought to, but take a harder look. Consider the context. San Antonio, one of the 10 largest cities in the United States, is also a city in which the majority of people are of Latino, Hispanic, and Spanish or Spanish-speaking heritage. So why is the warning sign in Spanish smaller than the one in English? Perhaps of more interest is the question of what that difference does to people who see it. Think about what message size conveys all by itself. As I write this, I am in Cape Town, South Africa for a conference. The conference organizer left me this note when I arrived. Welcome. I hope your travels were pleasant. As you get settled, give me a call on 082731XXXX. I am just around the corner, and perhaps we can meet up for coffee on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's a perfectly fine note, but it contains a couple of words that I would not have used had I written it. He asked me to call him on such and such number. I would have asked someone to call me at a given number. And he wants to have a coffee. I would have said coffee. Not a big deal, but it's interesting to me. I don't know that much about this person. He teaches at a large Midwestern university in the United States, as have I most of my life, but I don't know if he's from the Midwest. So I'm wondering what the source of our minor language differences would be. As a frequent traveler to South Africa, has he adopted a South African, British, or European way of thinking, of speaking, or does his usage reflect some other pattern? What do my preferred wording say about me? Not the most earth-shaking questions, but their answers reveal some interesting things about where he and I are from and what our social allegiances are. Most people wouldn't even notice this wording, and you might be wondering why I would do so. And you might not have paid much attention to the signs in front of the roller coaster in our first example. But I think that being in the habit of noticing what people say and write and being able to reflect on what these messages mean is a useful habit to pick up. It is a habit of close reading. And this is a book about how to train yourself to be a good close reader. In chapter 1, I argue that close reading is the mindful, disciplined reading of an object with a view to a deeper understanding of its messages, of its meanings, The objects we will learn to read closely are called text or messages. It's important to be able to read closely because it helps us to see things about messages, such as the differences in size of the warning signs that do make a difference and do affect how people think. These two examples, the roller coaster sign and my colleague's note, show us two dimensions in which close reading is important. First, it is important socially. As citizens, as people active in public life, we need to know how the messages we encounter may influence the public in important ways. We all know that instances of racism and ethnic inequality occur from time to time. For example, rarely will we find these and other problems openly and explicitly expressed or perpetrated. I mean, excuse me, perpetuated. Instead, we are more likely to be socially influenced in small ways, such as through signs in an amusement park. A single sign in an amusement park that makes English bigger, for better or for worse, will not be by itself create social and political attitudes, but a day's or month's experiences of such signs might. Okay, what did I just read right there?
Days or
No,
months.
no, no. I need to reread that.
I want to reread it.
Instead, we are okay. We all know that instances of racism and ethnic inequality occur from time to time. For example, rarely will we find these and other problems openly and explicitly expressed or perpetuated. Instead, we are more likely to be socially influenced in small ways, such as through signs in an amusement park. A single sign in an amusement park that makes English bigger, for better or for worse, will not by itself create social and political attitudes, but a day's or a month's experiences of such signs might. I thought the fly got me.
You can kick your phone on.
As public citizens, we at least need to be vigilant as to the meanings and possible effects of the messages we encounter. Close reading can help us to do that. We can thus claim that the ability to read closely is a public civic responsibility for all of us. Second, close reading is important personally. My ability to get along with my friend may well be improved if I can fully understand the ways his language use differs from mine. Paying attention to difference may alert me to other language variations I encounter, such as the British, in which one lives in Hampton Street, as opposed to the American usage in which one lives on Hampton Street. We have all probably had other experiences in which the ability to read people and their messages was important. When we were young, we likely needed to pay close attention to our parents and read their tones of voice, words, and actions so that we could learn, grow, and stay out of trouble. Many of us has had difficult bosses or supervisors who needed to be closely read to make the workday go more smoothly. Learning how to read the messages of others more closely is therefore also a valuable personal skill. Many of the readers of this book are college students. Students have particular need of skills in close reading. If you are a student, seldom in your life will you be in so diverse a group of people, and the ability to read others and their messages is important. That's true, babe. Many of you will keep blogs or will post messages through such currently popular sites as Facebook or Twitter. The ability to read these very short messages of others may alert you to important dimensions of personality or social beliefs of people you are getting to know, or to changes in how old friends think as they go through college. Is a recent blog posting sarcastic? Should you take it seriously? Is the poster angry? or perhaps seductive. An ability to read closely may help you answer questions like these. And of course, the ability to read a syllabus or a course assignment carefully and understand it can make a big difference in your success or failure in college. Chapters 1 and 2 introduce you to the general subject of close reading. In this first chapter, the section titled Being a Reader, Being a Critic explains in more detail that what I mean by close reading, and it introduces you to the idea that we read closely in our daily lives. This book will help you to read closely in more disciplined and systematic ways. Further, this chapter discusses what it means to be a critic. It also introduces the idea of rhetoric or persuasion and why a better understanding of the rhetoric of what we read is an important goal of close reading.
Stop.
Okay.
That's where it breaks off anyway, because the next thing it says after that is what?
Chapter 2 explain.
Chapter 2 explain.
Okay.
So chapter 1, this is what I got out of it. I'm kind of seeing like when they say people are clairvoyant or have intuition, that they're able to read other people's facial expressions,
text,
like symbols, like what's on my shirt or something. Like my shirt, it would catch your attention what was on my shirt. You kind of see what I'm saying? Like symbology is critical. Like for me personally, I'm gonna keep it real. Like I feel like that because I've been through certain things in my life, that it forced me to have to be able to read people's facial expressions. But that was like organic. Like this is more constructive.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So what he did was took this book by Barry Brummett, because what's the other guy's name?
Who?
The main dude with the theory that we doing this class on. Well, we'll run into it.
Yeah.
But what they doing is they saying that this is how we do it, by reading real close. And I think what they mean is like when they say discipline reading, like you don't try to read real fast and take your time, just read real slow and like get you a highlighter. And when things stick out to you, you know what I'm saying, or points are being made, you highlight it. So if you have to go back through there, you don't have to read the whole thing. That's like close reading. But to me, close reading is like reading myself. Like being able to read myself, and I can't do that all the time. So that's why I have a wife. Like, well, she's been my best friend for a long time, but yeah, whatever. That's why I have a wife though, because she brings me balance. Like she ain't always right, and I ain't always right. But the thing is that are we humble enough to listen to each other? And we don't always listen to each other. See, we bump heads, sometimes too. But what we also do is be open-minded, like to really try to understand what the other person's saying, and it requires some work.
And also being able to trust each other's sight. Like you might see something I don't see, or I might see something you don't see. You know what I'm saying? And to be able to trust each other's close readings. Just about situations or things or whatever.
Yeah, because I mean, just the way I grew up, I had to really pay attention, like to everything. To everything, even to the people's mannerisms. It was critical that I knew people's mannerisms. Like, I realistically could have lost my life if I didn't pay attention. So I was close reading without a book. But what's deep is like, since you've been taking this class, it's like I'm really starting to understand what close reading really means. It's really like taking a look at myself. So anytime I get an opportunity to read the scriptures or any type of something that will influence or encourage, also enlighten me, because enlightenment means that I have flaws or things that'll hold me back. I need to grow too. I still need to grow. So don't think that I'm judging anybody, because if we feel like judgment, it's called chastisement. And they say God chastises those he loves. And I don't think I'm God. I think that I'm good, orderly direction, though. Because I know all the way about how to be bad. So if I've mastered that, then maybe I am doing good, orderly direction. So I'm not trying to prove nothing to nobody. I'm just saying, like, when we do the optimal health as well, for me and us, but for me though, I have to hold myself accountable at all times.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm not teaching optimal health is wealth. That's not what my mission is. My mission is demonstrating it. So,
So what you think about chapter 1?
I really could resonate with, I thought it was interesting that the example that they used as far as the sign, when in San Antonio it's mainly Latinos or people of Spanish descent, and the sign had English text big, but had the um, Spanish text smaller, even though it's an area where it's predominantly Spanish culture. So I'm thinking like, dang, like if I close read that, that would mean like, to me, like they have a disregard for their customer. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Thank you. Does that make sense, babe?
Yeah.
It seemed like they would have a disregard for their clientele.
Yeah. And then like to me it's like he hit on that in the reading when he read that note. The note said that he wouldn't have gave the number up. You know what I'm saying? And then he wouldn't have asked for coffee because he would have did it some other way. And what he was saying is those small 2 words or 2 things that was in that note led him to think about those small differences. What does that really represent from that person? Because I've always heard that the real knowledge is in the details. Like,
yeah,
go ahead.
That's what I was getting. It's in the details. Like, it's in the small details.
Mm-hmm.
So, close reading seems to be being able to observe the small details, to single out.
Like my mom used to say, the devil. The devil's in the details. My big mom used to say it all the time. You feel me?
Yeah.
Because if you don't really read and pay attention, you work for him. Like you really work for the devil. Because,
so I was gonna say the meaning. It will determine, the small details will determine the meaning. Mm-hmm. So in that instance, as far as working for or whatever, it would be why? Like why?
Well, let me use an example of the devil in the details. Like when you sign a contract, let's just say you sign a contract for a loan, or let's do a better one. You go get a car. Well, that fine print, there you go. You nobody read all that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you might think it's one way, but really it's another, right? Because you didn't take the time to read the
closely,
whole thing.
To read closely.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's how they get over on us. And then they teach us at a very young age to spell cast. And what I mean by that is, like, for the first 5-6 years, or the first 6 to the 6th grade, you take spelling. It don't get no more obvious than that. And why do you mention that? Well, I know we need to all learn how to read English because that's what we speak. But the thing is, we're taught a certain way to construct. So what this is saying is when you closely read, you're deconstructing. Because you have to read before you sign that contract. You go ahead.
Okay. Another thing I was going to say I resonated with in the text is when they said children, how children are very observant. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I had to be observant to just growing up, just to really know what my surroundings consisted of,
Yeah. Your life was in danger, so was mine. You know what I'm saying? At all times. And my innocence was in danger at all times. But, it also had great times, too. I'm not going to sit here and say that everything was bad, because it wasn't. I can't do that. But what I did learn from my big mama and my auntie and my other aunties, how to read people.
Okay, so let's keep going. Chapter 2. explains the concepts of theories, methods, and techniques. For many, these may sound like three difficult concepts. All right, let me read that again. Chapter 2 explains the concepts of theories, methods, and techniques. For many, these may sound like three difficult concepts, but actually, we use them in everyday life. I explain that a theory is like a map to a text that you have likely already learned several theories about how texts work. If you have studied small group communication, for instance, you may have learned theories that help you group communication. For instance, you may have learned theories that help you navigate a group meeting, understanding what is going on as people communicate. A method is the vehicle you use to navigate a text, so to speak. Follow the theory's map. You might use methods of ethnography. Is that how you say that? Ethnography. For instance, to study a small group as it meets, and techniques or habits, tricks, or skills you acquire to study things. For instance, ways of recording conversations in small groups. These key terms are organized conceptually so that you can see how you can use the knowledge you have already gained in your education to support close readings. Additionally, these and other key terms and concepts are italicized in the text and summarized at the end of this chapter. Chapter 2 also explains the ethical implications of close reading for both critic and audience. Critics and their audiences risk something when they read closely, and they ask others to take similar risks, hence the ethical implications. The chapter discusses both inductive and deductive theories and shows how methods connect to theories. Finally, the chapter introduces the idea of techniques, which are the focus of the rest of the book. Chapter 3 explores the idea of form. You will learn that form is the structure, the pattern that organizes a text. Techniques for detecting and understanding.
Are you reading that chapter 3 right here? The review, the preview?
Yeah, techniques
okay, let's sorry, y'all. Can we please just go ahead and read chapter 1? Because I don't want to know about all these other chapters. I'm not going to
But this is chapter 1.
Oh. My fault, y'all.
You're supposed to be listener. The three main techniques you will study in chapter 3 are narrative, genre, and persona. Narrative is, as you will learn, the story-like form of a text. Three elements of narrative are found in text: coherence and sequence, tension and resolution, and alignment and opposition. A genre is a reoccurring type of text within a context. You will learn that a genre has recurring situational and stylistic responses or reoccurring kinds of context. One can also think of a genre as a reoccurring type of narrative. Our final technique is the detection of personae. And you will learn that a persona is a role, much like a character in a narrative, that someone plays in connection to a text. Chapter 4, what?
No, go ahead.
Chapter 4 explains techniques of exploring ideology by analyzing the arguments in text. Ideology is a systematic network of beliefs, commitments, values, and assumptions that influence how power is maintained, struggled over, and resisted. Ideologies are supported by and also revealed through argument. Argument is a process by which speakers and writers, together with audience, make claims about what people should do and assemble reasons why people should do those things. You will learn that some good techniques for detecting the arguments that establish ideologies are found in these questions to ask of a text. What should the reader think or do? What must the text ask the reader to assume? What does the reader know what the text claims? Who is empowered or disempowered? With these techniques, we may think more critically and productively about the good reasons text gives us for believing that they want us to believe. Believing what they want us to believe. The chapter talks about how a close reading might reveal how ideologies of gender, race, sexual orientation, and so forth are being presented or countered in text. Chapter 5 uses the idea of transformations to organize some techniques for looking beneath the surfaces of text or seeing what might not be apparent at first glance. We will see that transformations are ways in which the ordinary literal meanings of signs and images are turned, reversed, changed, altered by readers or text. Some transformations you will study are called tropes, and we will examine techniques for identifying the important common tropes called metaphor, metonymy, synecdoche, and irony.
We're going to look all that up and
Yeah.
get the definition.
Yeah, we are.
All right, so we ready?
When we get to chapter 5. Hold on. Chapter 6 is a single close reading which illustrates how techniques from across the chapters might be used. The text read will be a cartoon from the strip Carterville that appeared shortly before President Obama's inauguration. Finally, a conclusion reviews these techniques to sum up how they might be used and what we have learned. Close reading in a disciplined way is a skill that will serve you well for the rest of your life. By no means is it merely an academic exercise. In a world in which messages increasingly ask us to believe, accept, buy, and follow, the ability to read text closely is an indispensable survival skill. Ooh.
Hey, you know what's deep? Watch this.
They said it's a survival skill.
I know. And whoever's watching, let me ask you a question. 'Cause I'm a sociologist.
Hold on, let me read the last sentence.
Okay.
Close reading is both personally and socially empowering. Join me now in learning some techniques of close reading. Okay.
All right, that's dope. Okay, so some people is watching. You've been watching her read. From watching her read, and if you've been watching her closely, because I know some people can pick out when you do certain things. What do you think about, like, not just the material, but the way she read it? Okay, that's long enough. No, seriously though, because that's important though. Like, could you hear where she's from? Like, could you hear what her dialect? Could you hear how she was saying certain words? That's called close reading. Like, if you're paying attention, like, a lot of people get caught up on what's it called? You know what I'm talking about?
What?
Like your enunciation, your etiquette, like how you pronunciate words or pronounce words. So I was just curious for myself because I could see where you may have been like dyslexic at one point. Battle some dyslexia.
No.
What?
I probably did, but not.
On paper.
Yeah.
So how'd you overcome that? Like with words that twisted around and you read. Here's my thing. I said it once. Maybe in the other video we ain't use that one because I was being stupid. But I said, read slow and deliberate. And that's like, to me, that's close reading. And you were still flying. Now, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure this out. Now, if words is all over the place, how you put that together so fast to be able to read it on a college level, though? I don't care if you making mistakes and option. You in college getting A grades because she's doing her own work. We're gonna show you.
I can't afford to buy my degree.
Hey man, how are you able? If shit's all over, how you able to put this together so fast? You know what I'm saying? And still comprehend at the same time. You're gonna have to read slow. I gotta listen to you slow too. See, I have a problem listening. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, see, I can hold myself accountable. I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of problems. You know, my thing is I ain't gonna stay in this problem. You know, I had to fight people that bullied me. I ain't talking about I'm talking about in my own house. My sister was 11 years older than me, and she was kicking the niggas' asses where I grew up at. So we ain't gonna play. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my language. I'm sorry. This is Facebook. This is Facebook. Yeah, my bad. As long as it wasn't YouTube.
I'm gonna put it on YouTube if that's okay with you, sir.
All right, well, I'm gonna calm down. She was psychotic. She's still psychotic, but you know, I had to deal with some in-house foolishness, like right in my face every day. So you know, instead of cowering out, you know, I couldn't do that route. Because I can't live like that. So I had to fight all the time.
And
every
read
day.
her close.
Yeah, and read her close. And when I knew she was really good at strike, I had to strike her first and harder, being 11 years younger than her. So I sent her to the hospital with a plastic fork in her chin. Yeah, I did. You know I did. See, I'm an equal opportunity employer or person. You know, we ain't gonna just talk about your family.
Okay. Anyways.
All right. But anyway, we stopped right there for a reason though, because I was curious as to how people were close reading you, because it's a difference between close reading and judging somebody. So if I read you closely, I mean real close, because before I say anything, rest assured I got my T crossed and my I dotted. And she makes sure of that too. Yeah, that's my wife. I don't own her. She chooses to be here. And that's not what's some people that abuse their wives and tell them what to say. That's not one of those speeches. Because I know psychopaths that know how to talk good and treat people like garbage. So
anyways, the moral of this is, I think what he's trying to say is you have to read people close, because like this text, one of the last texts we read just said, it says that close reading is a survival skill. And then even the last sentence said that close reading is both personally and socially empowering.
So like I said, you start off by close reading yourself.
So close reading is
critical.
It's critical for achieving optimal health, because
it's an exercise in mentalism.
Yeah, and not only that, we're applying it in a social and personal way. So it's empowering.
That's balance.
Yeah. Okay. Being a reader, being a critic, it won't come as any surprise to you when I point out that you are reading. You are reading this book. Reading is something you do every day. But let's think for a minute about what that involves. You are looking at this book, an object that is full of black marks on white paper. No, not just any black marks. These marks have meaning. You know what these black marks mean in the English language, and you know how to put together into a coherent message the meanings that these marks suggest. We can think of meaning as the thoughts, feelings, and associations that are suggested by words, images, objects, actions, and messages. Consider this series of ink marks on paper. DOG. When you read it, certain thoughts, feelings, and associations come into your head, which are what that which are what the markings, the letters mean. That is how all reading works. If you couldn't find meaning in reading, and sometimes we cannot, you quit doing it. Ooh.
Ooh, wee.
It says, it says, if you couldn't find meaning in reading, and sometimes you cannot, you quit doing it.
This is cool. That's deep, man, because like we had a visitor, and and she came and she was rhetorical, and I asked the question. I said, "Do you know anything about a family trust?" She looked me dead in my eyes and said, "No." And I'm sitting here saying to myself, "Self, how's let me see, an estate or a business empire, and the main person that is geared or maybe set up to run it doesn't know what a family trust is?" or she was lying. I know what a family trust is. Okay, babe. So let's keep reading.
It's a remarkable thing about reading that 100 people who read the same thing will likely find both the same meanings and different meanings. It's a remarkable thing about reading that 100 people who read the same thing will likely find both the same meanings and different meanings. This is true even in ordinary conversation. The last time you said, "I didn't mean that," you were complaining that somebody read a meaning in something you said that you would not find there yourself, and that you certainly didn't intend anyone to find. But despite the reoccurrence of misunderstandings and misreadings, we continue to read books, movies, TV shows, and each other with confidence that we will find enough of the same meanings others would find that we can all make sense of the world together. Although there is a lot of disagreement and slippage regarding what messages mean, you are fairly confident that you are finding many of the same meanings in this passage that I, your author, hoped you will find there. You are also fairly confident that you are finding many of the same meanings most other people would get from the reading. If somebody else reading this book told you, the first paragraph is a coded message from the Brummett fellow that the world will end in 2030. You would be justified in doubting such a reading. Although it's not foolproof, we read just exactly to discover meanings that we think most other people would also find if they read the same way we did. There is a whole field of study called semiotics or semiology that concerns itself with meaning and how meaning is read. We don't have time to explore it fully here, but some classic texts referred at the end of this book are the Charles Sanders Peirce S.I. Hayaka and Ferdinand de Saussure. I don't know, these words. Semiotic studies different kinds and levels of meaning. It is sensitive to the differences in meaning that arise out of personal experience and between personal experience and generally agreed upon understanding. I encourage you to explore this further if it interests you. One recurring concern in semiotics is the management of what's this word?
No, I can't see it. Where is it?
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. Go ahead.
Oh, ambiguity in language. Some thinkers believe that language works best when all ambiguity is removed as much as possible, although most recognize that it's not possible. What is ambiguity?
The ability to SHIT talk. It's the gift of gab.
Look at
And
her.
if you're being ambiguous, you're not being straightforward. You see what I'm saying? Like another way of whatever is gangster talk. You know how we talk and say things to each other that nobody else really understand.
Mm-hmm.
But you better be able to read real close. You better be able to close read. You know what I'm saying?
Other thinkers believe that ambiguity is of the essence of language and that total precision of meaning is not possible.
Hold
It says,
on. Ambiguity.
Here's the definition of ambiguity: the quality of being open to more than one interpretation, inexactness.
Yeah, so when you let the quality of being open to one's interpretation. So if you know a rock is a rock and you let somebody come tell you a rock is a chicken, you might have a problem. You see what I'm saying? But go ahead.
So the last thing we said was that, okay, it said some thinkers believe that language works best when all ambiguity is removed as much as possible. Other thinkers believe that ambiguity is of the essence of language and that total precision of meaning is not possible.
That leads me back to an age-old rock hard truth is that it used to be a time where somebody made a candle and somebody made a wheel and somebody traded the candle for the wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then came along somebody who thought they was smarter than everybody else. He said, I'm going to get in between them and I'm going to help him trade his candle for his wheel and they going to pay, and both of them going to pay me for it. They're the ones who love ambiguity because they can get everybody else to do all the work and they can just make money being the middleman. Now, the thing about being a middleman is you don't really want to do no work.
You just want to be in the middle.
You just want to be in the middle. And you don't want to be the man, for real, because you're in the middle. Because the man is the person who makes the candles and the wheel because they have a skill. You don't have anything but the ability to flick, shoo, you know what I'm saying? That's what you have when you leave it open to interpretation.
When you have ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
Okay.
Ambiguity, whatever you want to call it. I can mess it up too, but I know how to say it, spell it. Got a master's degree in it. You dig? So all I'm saying is that, you know, the reason why I can see through y'all is because I cut out all the fat. I can see through myself. I don't got no fat. I barely got some skinny. You know what I'm saying? But close reading is critical. Yes, sir? Okay. I heard come. Go ahead, baby. Take over.
Okay. Let's see. Where did I stop at? Okay. A close reading may fall on either side of the controversy, although when there is ambiguity, I cannot even say that. In language, close readings can work to reveal the ambiguities and to show slippage in the meaning of a text. When we read, we do lots of complicated things at once. We examine an object like a book to figure out some of things it means. We usually, although not always, try to figure out which meanings the person who created the object wanted us to find. We usually are interested in finding meanings that other readers who share some of our experiences and context will also find. A reading, then, is an attempt to understand the socially shared meanings that are supported by words, images, objects, actions, and messages. Somebody might well think that my first paragraph means that the end of the world is impending. impending, but that is likely not a socially shared meaning, since hardly anyone else will find that meaning in the paragraph. A reading is an attempt to find reasonable or plausible meanings in a message or object, and readings are done in such a way as to be defensible after the fact. By defensible, I mean that someone can produce evidence to support your reading from the message or from widespread usage. You might defend a reading by saying, for instance, I read the message this way because of the way these two sentences are phrased, or in the southern United States, most people see their image this way. There is a connection between the fact that, hold on. There is a connection between the fact that we search for socially shared meanings and the fact that we search for meanings that are also plausible and defensible. In everyday readings, we want to read so that most people who encounter the same messages could see the same meanings if they too were to read the same things. If you get a party invitation that says semi-formal and you show up in the suit and tie while your host greets you at the door in a swimsuit, you will surely defend your reading. That is, give evidence for your understanding of the invitation as correct as what most people would find in such a message and as the meaning most people would intend by the semi-formal. A reader is a meaning detective. And while detectives may often make guesses about the mysteries they try to solve, those are usually educated guesses that can be backed up with the evidence. The same is true for the meaning detective of a message. The meanings we detect are the plausible, defensible, socially shared meanings that are supported by a message. Like detectives, though, we can make educated guesses about meaning. And to do so, you must be educated. That is the purpose of this book, to give you some ways to read plausible, socially shared meanings and share them with others in ways you may not now be able to. It may come as a bit of a surprise when I suggest that you read many other kinds of experiences, some of them clearly messages and some of them not, in ways similar to the way you are reading this book. You see a garden bed all trampled down and read that as meaning that the neighbor's dog has been rolling in it again. You enter your apartment to find pizza boxes here and there and clothes in need of laundering on the floor, and you read that to mean that your roommate has come back early from a visit home. When you go to the movies, think of the screen as an enormous book with each new scene a different page. You see images, you hear dialogue and sounds, and you read them as you would a book. You see a character in a movie pull out a pistol, and you know to read the pistol as meaning the threat of violence. Two characters kiss tenderly, and you read those images as meaning love or affection. As with a book, you are fairly confident that the makers of the film meant you to find these meanings, and you are confident that the people you are with are drawing generally the same meanings from their readings in the movie. If one of your friends shrieked loud at the sight of a tender kiss and whispered, "Oh, I'm so afraid," you might wonder at her reading and think that she had found some meanings in the movie unlikely to be shared by other viewers. In a similar way, you read your boss and co-workers, you read your family members and the gatherings at which you meet them, and you read the music you listen to. You read using techniques of deciphering meaning that are generally, although sometimes not universally, shared among a community of readers, the public, other people who more or less share your experiences. people who have been exposed to the same messages that you have. It would not be too much to claim that any society, any culture depends on its members sharing roughly similar ways of reading a wide range of experiences. Nor would it be too much to claim that an ability to read is essential to your own happiness and your ability to function socially.
That's deep, man.
Yeah.
Wait on that.
It says, nor would it be too much to claim that an ability to read is essential to your own happiness and your ability to function socially. So, yeah, just the ability, me being able to read. I know I do need some water, Lord. My throat is dry. Thank you, babe. Oh, I got a good husband. Thank you. So I was gonna say, I think that last text that we read, it said that the ability to be able to close read, it contributes to one's happiness, and it also contribute to one's ability to function socially.
So how you think it affected you growing up?
Okay.
Let's keep it real, cause see, that's how we can get down to the roots of things. How you think it affected you growing up?
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you. How do you think it affected me?
Well, my very first memory is my dad. His name was Henry Johnson.
Okay.
And he was rubbing some kind of salve in my eyes because I was supposed to be blind when I was born.
Okay.
So I remember him doing that as a baby. I remember that. Like it stuck out to me because if I was supposed to be born blind and now I could see, and plus like with my eyes being like the color they are, it's different than if your eyes are darker. Like how the light affects it, how the moon affects it, it's different. So my perspective has always been a little different. So words like are critical in my analysis.
How has close reading contributed to your happiness?
Words have been critical in my ability to see things for what they really are, though. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it took a long time for me to be able to see myself, but I only was able to do that by reading.
I think close reading has contributed to my happiness as far as, I don't know, that's a good question.
I know.
Camille, what exactly were you reading? I'm reading Barry Brummett. It's close reading. Techniques, and basically it's talking about being able to look at images, objects, people, things, and being able to formulate a meaning, right?
Yeah, and then so that you could actually function in society. How you think? Like a robot or like a well logically love-filled individual? Like, so my thing is, if you take the time to read, you take the time for the things that are important to you. If you take the time to read, take the time to read the places you go, the people you choose to love, the people you choose to honor and respect. You take the time to do that. Like, it's called, it said discipline in it.
Camille said basically being optimistic in certain ways.
Okay. Elaborate. Tell her elaborate.
Tim said elaborate on that. Basically being optimistic in certain ways.
Because that's what ambiguity means. She just got her, right?
Yeah, she just said she just got it. She just got
that's what
her.
I'm saying.
I think close reading, she said, you said looking at objects and people in certain ways, right? Yeah. It's like Tim said, like being able to have discernment, like being able to have intuition by observation.
Like what we do naturally. Like, you know when your child's messing up. If you pay attention to your child, you know when your child ain't behaving the right way.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? See, ain't no words got to be said because it's observation and close reading. And that's close reading that doesn't even require words.
So, yeah, babe, come on. You said you're going to read?
Yeah. I got to put my glasses on. You want to get back on camera with my glasses on?
Come here so you can be closer so they can hear you.
So they can see me vulnerable. See my weaknesses. Huh?
Shit.
Let's see if I can read. It's been so long since I read. Okay, where you at? I gotta use my baffle. I'm near side and far side. I don't need those glasses. Come on, give me the book. All right.
Think of what it would be.
I ain't gonna stop right there.
We start talking about it.
All right. Think of what it would be like if you did not know how to decipher the meanings of your friends' gestures and expressions, or if you could not share in an understanding of what that new hit comedy on HBO last night meant to your coworkers. It would be as if you lived in a country where you spoke some of the language and understood none of the gestures people used. Think how isolated you would be without the ability to read in this broad sense of the term. All right, and we start on another paragraph. I need some light. All right, here we go. Although nearly everybody reads messages and experiences in one way or another, you know from your own experience that there are times when you have to slow down and pay special attention to what you are reading. Did you ever read a book in which there were so many characters in different relationships and with so many different personalities that you had to slow your reading down or read certain passages over again carefully to make sure you understood who was connected to whom and in that way? Many people experience this type of complexity in the Harry Potter series of novels by J.K. Rowling. And they find that slow, careful reading and rereading of the books reveal new understandings. Did you ever see a movie more than once because you felt that there were meanings and dimensions of the film that needed to be understood better? And perhaps you found that paying close attention to a movie the second or third time through helped you to read things you hadn't read before, to see meanings you hadn't seen before. The Lord of the Rings and the Matrix series of movies affected many people this way, as do the Stranger Things or the different Twin Peaks television series. And they find that seeing the films or shows over and over again allows them to find new meaning each time. Okay. The second, more careful kind of reading we call a close reading. There is no sudden, distinct threshold once one crosses to go from a reading to a close reading. The more care and deliberation one takes, the more one studies the words, images, actions, objects, and other components of what one is reading, the more one is closely reading. The move from reading to close reading is a continuum. Close reading is mindful, disciplined reading of an object with a view to deeper understanding of its meaning.
And you have to have discipline to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like, let me back up. Come on, get back on your thing. You know, like, it's like. I'm gonna keep it real. I didn't fully expect everything to be perfect. You know what I'm saying?
When did you take a close reading at
what was going on with us?
What I was, I was saying.
About what, life? I didn't hear what you just said. You whispered, I didn't hear you though.
Just about my trauma and everything I was going through.
That's what I'm here to do. All right. See, I'm going to show y'all something. I have a degree in sociology, so this is what I had to do. I grew up in the hood. This is what I had to do. You know, I've been in positions in my life where it was critical that I closely read people and words and things. This is what I do. So when I first encountered the situation, I wasn't trying to come in as a therapist, because I am. A real one. For real. See what I'm saying? So I couldn't be no therapist. I had to be a friend. I've been her friend for a long time now. So she ain't told me nobody's personal information as her friend. Not one scrunget. She didn't tell me nothing until y'all start playing games. We gonna keep it real. She didn't have to tell me nothing. Because I can see straight through you. Now, with my wife, you know, though I can't be a friend right now. We doing a book read, and we reading this, and it's leading to this because it's critical. Like, one of the things that she had to go through from the trauma of what happened to her, she couldn't talk. They didn't think, they just thought she wouldn't talk. No, she couldn't talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes, like, your brain, if you traumatize enough, you have a brain injury. And you ain't gonna use it as no excuse. Because she's made it this far with you hyenas. So we're not gonna blame that. You know what I'm saying? And if anybody's to blame, it's not her. She was a little bitty girl. Not a old enough girl to wear makeup, dress up for one of them little shows they got on TV, the pageant. She was 4 or 5 years old. No, 3 or 4 when that happened, man. So that's about the same as dropping somebody on their head. Seriously.
See, I didn't know that trauma could affect you in that way. I didn't know how much the trauma affected my brain because I didn't really know what was going on.
Okay, look though, everybody around you kind of could see what was going on, especially your grandmama, because she got you some help.
Yeah.
So your grandmama was the one who got her occupational therapy, vocational therapy. What was the other one?
Speech therapy. They tested my hearing.
Tested her hearing. You know, she was not able to control herself, you know, at a later age that she should have been. You know what I'm saying? As far as like her sanitary things. So she had to learn a lot of things, like, you know. So, but what confused me though is how you have a year-old brother. Now I ain't saying he's 5, 4 or 5 or whatever older than you. He's a year older than you every step of the way, right? Mm-hmm. But he's a genius. Now, how is he able to talk, dance, sing? How is he able to carry through like ain't nothing wrong? You see what I'm saying? Because this is not an allegation. This ain't me slandering you. This ain't me lying on you. I heard what you said. You said that man tried to sodomize you. That's traumatic. Even if you did fight him off at 4 or 5, I applaud you for that. But mentally, you was messed up. So how is it that you made it? How is it that you didn't have to, you know, go through all that therapy and this, that, and third? You know what I'm saying? That's a good question.
Yeah, but it affected him
differently.
Because
everybody's not the same. You see what I'm saying? Everybody's not the same. And then from your story, you saying he tried you, but he didn't get you.
Well, baby, you gotta remember, it's just close reading. Everybody don't know
all right, but
about the generational curse series.
Okay, but everybody's cool with, because you said how it affected you. I'm gonna point out how it affected somebody else right along with you, because that's a good. I'm a psychiatrist and a psychologist. It's a good case study. If you want, that's what you said. You said, tell me what I thought it did. Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you what I think it did. What I think it did was it gave him courage, and it took your ability to function. You see what I'm saying? So they spoiled you, you know what I'm saying, because they didn't get you help. Like the help they got you was not the help you're supposed to get. The help you're supposed to get, you're supposed to have been arrested or not able to do that ever again. You know what I'm saying? The truth should have came out. Because there's situations in my life where I have made many, many bad decisions because I didn't tell the truth. Keeping secrets from my own mama. And trust me, I love my mama more than God. You see what I'm saying? I kept one secret from my mom. That one secret I kept from her, I had to tell her before she died. But trust me, I didn't get my life right till I told her. So my wife asked me how it affected her. I'm going to tell you, because she needed to get help, man. And the one person that attempted to help her for real, with some real help, was her grandmother. Now, the reason why I'm making that statement is because it was critical. Critical. This is critical. Why would you remove her from the person who has already got her some help? It's on record. You know, if you her dad and y'all her family, and you couldn't help what happened to her when you wasn't there, I understand that. But when you knew she had to go get all this therapy, you know, 3 or 4 different therapies, is something's going on. That's reading closely. You don't even have to read closely for that. That's overkill reading. But what I'm saying is, the one person that was actually going to help her for real, y'all removed her from her. But you don't want to take no accountability or responsibility for that. And I would really like to hear what your reasoning was for that. You know, I'm going to keep it real. You know I don't want the regular old, you her dad, you should have this, that, and the third, you know, because what you should have not done is so dope in the military, you wouldn't have went to prison. You feel me? So we ain't going to say that. You can't even use that excuse no more. I think it's something a little bit more deeper is why you took her from her. From the one person that she actually had that was really going to help her.
Where we at?
I don't know, babe. You somewhere.
What do we want to call the thing that you are reading when you read? Of course, we could call it what it is. A movie, a textbook, a country western tune, and so forth. Let's agree on the overall term for all these things you are reading. A text. A text is the object that generates the meanings you want to know more about and perhaps tell others about. Knowing how to read carefully and then systematically tell others about a text is what makes a critic out of a reader.
Okay, let me elaborate too. This is so y'all know I ain't crazy. Let me bring it full circle because I ain't forget what I was talking about. The reason why I said I read and pay attention and I'm critical in my readings and whatnot is because immediately once I found out what happened to her, I made her address that to all of y'all. Y'all played with her, so I told her to do it on Facebook because that's your truth. You see what I'm saying? That was 3 years ago. You see what I'm saying? Like, we ain't obsessed with y'all. Y'all tripping. Y'all was playing with far then because obviously I'm not scared of anything or worried about what nobody think about me, or we would have never done that. That was 3 years ago. So nobody's stalking y'all, trying to hurt y'all. We ain't hit civil courts yet. You see what I'm saying? So we had left you guys alone. Like, for real. Now, my wife missed y'all because y'all been part of her life. I miss my family too, but when the Bible says you marry somebody, you cleave to your wife. That was for me, and that's what I've done. So now everything's pretty much kind of cool in my line, like with my family and my children and everybody. Like, would you not agree? Like, yeah, I'm saying. And I got 10 children. So I'm not better than y'all. I must be doing something y'all not doing, though. So my point is, all right, my point is that I'm intelligent enough to see through you. I ain't saying I'm smarter than you. I'm intelligent because I read. Now, if you cheated to get your degree, you cheated yourself. Because if you're not working in what you got a degree in, even as a side hustle or some type of something, Because trust me, to become one of those is very difficult to do. So you wouldn't waste that if you knew the material.
There are complications we need to consider when we read a text. However, two important ones are context and audience. The context is what is going on in the surroundings when we read. I mean surroundings in at least two scenes here. The historical context and the textual context. People who read text are influenced by what is going on historically, not necessarily in the scene of a grand sweep of hundreds of years, but in the scene of what is going on socially and politically in the day's events. A text that is a movie about a terrorist attack will be read differently the morning after an actual terrorist attack than it will be morning before it. For example, since 9/11, news reports of drowned airplanes almost always say whether a terrorist attack is suspected. A haunted house story will be read differently on a bright sunny day than on a stormy night. These are examples of how historical context affect reading. Textual context also affect readings. If we are reading a book that has been ironic, playful, and funny all along, we are much more likely to read further passages of the book as ironic, even if they appear to be in deadly earnest. If a vampire appears in a comic movie, we might laugh at it. If a vampire appears in a movie that has been full of werewolves and ghosts, we may cover our eyes in fright.
That's interesting. The word vampire come up in the book that we read.
Texts often set up their own context that guide readings. What does that mean?
Read that again. But read that first part, because that first part led into what you said. What does that mean? Read the first part about the vampire. Go back a little bit.
All right. Okay. Textual context also affect readings. If we are reading a book that has been ironic, playful, and funny all along, we are much more likely to read further passages of the book as ironic, even if they appear to be in deadly earnest. If a vampire appears in a comic movie, we might laugh at it. If a vampire appears in a movie that has been full of werewolves and ghosts, we may cover our eyes in fright. Texts often set up their own context that guide readings.
It's a setup. The word setup stick out like a sore thumb. It's a setup. You feel me? Like if they already set you up for it in context, you'll fall for it.
So like everybody won't say I'm crazy. So it's the setup to keep picking so I can go crazy, and then it feeds into the narrative.
Context.
Oh, into the context.
Yeah, see, if you ain't noticed, we write a book. We definitely gonna write a book. my mama said, you talk too much. You know what I'm saying? My mama said, you be talking too much. Yeah. We'll donate all of it to charity, boy.
Not from the book.
No, not that. You got that on your own.
I noted earlier that readers attempt to arrive at plausible socially shared readings. But it is important to realize that not everyone reads text in the same way. The reader may need to qualify his or her reading by describing the audience perspective from which a particular interpretation of the text may be derived. A news story about an earthquake in China may be read differently by people of Chinese heritage than by other people.
Can you see the B on there?
I don't think so. No.
They can't see the B that's on there?
No, Samir done slide it all on the phone. It says, a news story about an earthquake in China may be read differently by people of Chinese heritage than by other people. A story about the world's richest human will be read differently according to the reader's economics class. Although texts often contain widely shared meanings, honesty and accuracy require the reader to be clear about the audience perspective from which a reading takes place. You hear that? It says, although texts often contain widely shared meanings, honesty and accuracy require the reader to be clear about the audience perspective from which a reading takes place. In other words, the close reader should not assume that his or her reading of a text is necessarily what the text means to others.
Mm. So that ambiguity raised his head up again, didn't it?
Now, let's get a little practice in close reading, or more accurately, let's remind ourselves of what we do when we read closely. Please take a look at the Baldo cartoon in figure 1.2. Think about what happens as you read this text, understand it, and snatch a bit of truth and humor from it. You have to examine all of the words and images that make up this text, and for such a small block of space in the daily newspaper, there is actually quite a bit of information that you must process. What is key to making the cartoon work as an insightful and humorous text? Of course, it is the contrast between Baldo's upbeat, inclusive words and picture of what is, in fact, a segregated high school cafeteria with Hispanics, African Americans, and European Americans at separate tables. Now think for a moment of some ways to read this cartoon that would miss the punchline. You could look at it and simply say, oh, Baldo is mistaken. The text is showing us how foolish some teenagers can be. Or you could say, clearly, the artist in the cartoon wasn't paying attention to the words. This is just a mistake on the part of the makers of the cartoon. But these interpretations are not likely to be offered by most people. More to the point, these are implausible and not very defensible. Most people who have spent a significant amount of time in this country will realize that poignant truth is the cartoon. That although we celebrate diversity in our talk, our personal lives and actual practices often are not so diverse. Awareness of the contradictions that occur in life in a diverse culture is the bundle of meanings we will likely pull out of this reading. We say we appreciate other cultures, but then flock together with birds of our feather when it comes time to lunch, worship, or marriage. I'm guessing that nearly all of us know this is to be true with such clarity that we are confident that the cartoonist meant us to recognize that the discrepancy between what is said and what is done in the cartoon and to recognize that it applies to our lives. I'm guessing that nearly all of us know that others have seen the same cafeteria come into conflict with the same hopeful talk. So we are not only confident that the cartoons of this text intended us to find meaning, exposing the contradictions between talk and practice, we are also confident that others in the United States will see the same contradiction and recognize it as a widespread fact of life. We should also take into consideration the historical and textual context within which the cartoon might be read. The course of race relations changes over time, and the presence or absence of some startling news event having to do with race may affect how we read the cartoon. This cartoon appeared before the election of President Obama, for example. How might it be differently now after his presidency than when it was first printed? The cartoon occurs with the textual context of the comic strips of a newspaper, which would encourage the reader to approach this text lightheartedly. And, of course, the reader needs to be careful about the audience perspective from which the text is read. How might readers who are members of the different groups portrayed here in the cartoon differently? But could we go deeper? What would a closer reading look like? We may already be closer in the reading practices than most average viewers of the strip in the morning paper. But let us think about what a close reading entails. Such a reading depends on recognition of some rather detailed and complicated components of the text. For instance, we recognize the different styles that Baldo calls our attention to in the artist's depiction of three cultural groups: the European American, Hispanic, and African American groups have distinct clothing and styles, different postures. If you look closely enough, they even have different facial expressions or gestures by group. Now, are these stereotypes about these ethnic groups, or are they truthful generalizations? Perhaps the very reason for the discrepancy between Baldo's words of inclusion and scene of segregation. Our answer to that question has a lot to do with who the text asks us to be. Are we the kind of people who would sit in separate groups, as do the young people of the cartoon? Or are we called on by the text to be wiser than that and to recognize the need to overcome social habits if we want to live up to Baldo's words? What is there in the text that gives you some clues as to as to who the text is inviting us to be? Likewise, is there anything in the text that invites us to stand beside Baldo in his sentiments, or are we meant to take a stand superior to his? Are we called to see ourselves in his words, or to take a smug position and recognize how mistaken he is? Who, then, is the text calling us to be in terms of his words as well as the picture? All that in sight from a quick look at a cartoon. That's what we do when we read. And when we read closely, we probe even deeper into text to extract meanings. We could not yet call our reading of the cartoon a disciplined one, and you may recall from our earlier definition that a close reading is a mindful, disciplined reading of an object or text. We will turn in the next chapter to the kinds of tools that can discipline our minds and guide us systematically through close readings. First, let's look at another step we might take in the process of reading: critiquing. From reading to critiquing. Some people keep moving along the continuum of reading into close reading regularly, perhaps habitually. These people are often on the alert for extra dimensions of meaning. They seem to have a knack, or maybe they use rules of thumb or guidelines for finding meanings that may not be apparent on a first reading but become clearer after a close reading. Such people become interesting to others and of service to others when they share these insights. Let's call these dedicated close readers by the name critic. A critic is not critical in the sense of being negative, but rather in the sense of critiquing meanings based on a close reading. So look, for my family, you know what I'm saying, with the generational curse breaking videos, I'm not judging. I was critiquing in the process of the close reading, or after the process of the close reading. I was being a critic. So I'm not judging y'all. I'm critiquing. And that's the difference. And I have the right to critique because it's personal.
And like before she started reading, from reading to critiquing, the whole reading before that, to me, it was like it was talking about the world as a stage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like, there's different things set up and different people and different environments, and that those things kind of define you. Our job as human beings is to break out of that. It's pretty much gonna be ingrained in you, but when you closely read yourself, you can understand that that's not you. That's a family name. That's an environment. That's a habits. You are the experience in that. You know, like old people say, it ain't what happened to you, it's what you do afterwards. Or the Bible would say, it's something bad. God ain't looking for the bad because he don't really care about the bad, because bad things happen to everybody, but he wants to see how you're going to respond to it. But see, the thing is when you closely read, and you closely take a look at yourself, because my wife and I have both gone through therapy. Man, I went through a recovery program for the lifestyle, for real. Like, So I had to take a look at myself. And since she's been with me, you know, I ain't put her through no recovery program. Or she ain't been under no intense therapy. But our relationship requires it affords us the ability.
It produces it.
Yeah, it produces accountability. You know what I'm saying? Or the ability to closely read each other, and then, you know, we get mad when we call each other out. We still bump heads and stuff like that. However, it's not in vain. I'm just gonna put it that way. It's not in vain because I can't really tell you or express to you all the positives that go along with that as a husband.
The communication becomes more effective for one.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of great things going on in our life. We got a lot of great things going on in our life.
We got a lot of things to be grateful for.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like this whole time we've been doing this video, our baby's been asleep. You know what I'm saying? My stepdaughter fixed us a burnt grilled cheese sandwich. You know, my son, he's 2 years old. She keep an eye on him. You know, he's a lot to deal with. You know, I'm gonna keep it real. You know what I'm saying? But I'm used to it. We gonna be fine. You know what I'm saying? And then my 6-year-old, you know what I'm saying? Stepson, he's going through some things, man. You know, and I respect that. So we gonna process it, you know, a little one day at a time. You know what I'm saying? But at least he ain't hit on that door about 50 times since we've been heard.
All right.
Yeah.
Critiques.
Gratitude.
All right. Critics come in two forms, professional and everyday. We are used to professional critics or dedicated close readers. These are the people who offer close readings for us of movies, books, sports, and so forth on blogs, on television, and in newspaper. Professional critics are all around us, and if you think about it for the moment, you'll realize that you may have been more familiar with critics than you think. Do you ever read the opinion page of the local newspaper? Then you will read critiques. Then you will read critiques sent in by local critics in the letters to the editor column, as well as critiques written by members of the paper's editorial staff. Do you read comments and predictions made by local columnists in the sports sections of local newspapers, in print or online? They are professional critics. Nationally syndicated columnists often offer critiques as well. For instance, Leonard Pitts is a widely read columnist based in Miami. Take a look at some of his recent columns at LeonardPittsJr.com. Not all of these pieces are critiques of a text, but some are. Notice how many of them are based on sharing the results of a close reading of a reader's email, the president's tweets, or the commentary of television pundits. What's pundit?
P-O-N-D-E.
P-U-N-D-I-T.
That's interesting. Let's help me look it up.
Did you put it back in there?
Yeah.
You got to press that.
Yeah. I'll turn it off. I'll just short on this part right here. Yeah. Push it.
Yeah. There we go. A pundit.
I've heard pundit before.
P-U-N-D-I-T.
Especially like when they do politics.
Yeah.
Pundit.
According to
It says, notice how many of them are based on sharing the results of a close reading of a reader's email, the president's tweets, or the commentary of a television pundit.
Okay. A pundit. A noun. An expert in a particular subject or field who is frequently called on to give opinions about it to the public.
Okay.
Yeah, like Court TV, and then what's her name? Nancy Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that she girl? Don't smell. I found that on purpose. Come on.
Okay, so it's an expertise on a certain subject. Specific subject.
It's not really Nancy Grace, but I've seen a lot of pundits. She utilizes that on her show to give it credibility.
Yeah. Dr. Oz. Another place we find critics is on the radio. National Public Radio often airs blogs and place we find critics. Hold on. National Public Radio often airs blogs and critiques by a number of commentators, which you may find at www.npr.org. Note how often these critiques are based on a close reading of the text of a recent game or a statement or performance by a sports figure. The Internet Movie Database, www.imb.com, often includes critiques that go beyond mere reviews, offering brief close readings of current movies in the theaters and on DVDs. You can be the everyday critic. However, an everyday critic is not a job you apply for. You have likely been a critic yourself, based on a close reading. Perhaps you know how to read baseball games closely, and when sitting in the stands, you called a friend's attention to a strategy that was developing on the field. Maybe you follow a soap opera closely, and while watching one with your sister, you offer her your take on why the character is being such a jerk. Such as we can all learn to close read in our daily, everyday lives, so we can all become critics who read closely regularly and share our insights with others. Everyone reads, and everyone has the potential to critique. When we critique, we figure out a way to share our reading with others. We become critics. We offer other people special insights or knowledge into some object or experience. All of us read movies, music, television shows, internet sites, and books. Not everyone critiques professionally. Not everyone is a paid critic. A critic is someone equipped with special ways of sharing readings with others. But the critique also involves a commitment to teach others how to read. A critic is the friend who sits next to you in a movie theater and points out things about the movie that you may not have noticed. Links actions and characters together in ways you had not considered. And unless he or she makes a pass of herself in doing so, adds to your understanding and enjoyment of that movie. A critic, it's messing me up because it's using critic and critique. A critic is not necessarily negative and is not focused on finding fault. A critic has seen something new and wants others to see it as well. A critic may be defined as a person who is trained to close reading and in sharing the readings with others. If a reader is a meaning detective, then a critic is a Sherlock Holmes, a Hercule Poirot, or an Adrian Monk of close reading. And that can be you in your everyday life. What does a critic do exactly? If you know a friend is going to a movie, you might ask, which theater is he going to? Westgate, he will reply. Your friend is not yet functioning as a critic. He has given you some information you had before, but it is information in a form already understood by all, the easily discoverable in that form by going online or looking in the newspaper. Similarly, if your friend says the first show is at 7, that is not a critique, but rather a factual and useful statement. Neither statement required close reading of anything. Your friend becomes a critic when he comes back from the movie and you ask him how it was. Let's suppose he replies, it was one of those Star Tussle movies set in outer space, but it occurred to me that it was really a Western in disguise. The spaceship was like a covered wagon going through dangerous territory toward a distant promised land. They had to repel all sorts of threats from other beings and from natural forces. They all carried weapons, which were used a lot. Yep, just like a Western, now your friend has become a critic. Why? Your friend is sharing with you a way to see a text that you did not have before. Your friend knows a way to read text that's enabled him to give you knowledge about the text that you did not have before. The Mother Goose and Grimm cartoons in Figure 1.3 is an example of a widespread attitude toward messages, especially such entertaining text as Tom and Jerry cartoons. The idea that there are no hidden messages in a text just because it is a cartoon or a television show or even a commercial is mistaken, if common. In fact, we might closely read this very cartoon for such meanings. Note the old-fashioned television set, a big boxy type that is no longer made. Note the large pattern of the overstuffed chair, which looks dated and homey. Note that the chair is pulled right up to the television set. We see no other furniture, no sofa on which a number of people might sit. The cartoon conveys meanings of a single, perhaps even lonely, older person who is not concerned about having up-to-date technology or stylish furniture in the home. One might wonder if that is the kind of audience the cartoon wants to attract, an older, more conservative demographic. So there we are. Although the cartoon characters may find no hidden meanings in Tom and Jerry, there may be hidden meanings in their own little world. It is a legitimate for critical, close readers to search for such meanings anywhere.
That's what advertising is. To find the one small thing, whether it's a picture or a word, that can tie as many people together as possible for consumption to make $1. You know what I'm saying?
A little earlier, we defined a critic as one who is trained in close reading and in sharing those readings with others. What is the critic trained to do? Or how is a critic trained to seeing a text differently from others? This way to see a text, this thing that can generate knowledge, we will call a technique of criticism. Anyone can learn that these techniques as you will in this book. We begin.
Do it again.
Anyone can learn these techniques as you will in this book. We begin talking about techniques and how to use them in close reading in a later chapter. It is methods and related concepts that give us the discipline that moves us from reading to close reading. Communication of insights about the meaning of a text is therefore an important dimension of being a critic. Why do we share these insights? Critics want to share their insights about the meanings of text because they have understood that they live more richly with more awareness when they arrive at these insights, and they want others to have the same advantages. Critics therefore serve an important public function. Whether the public is the nation or just a group of friends watching a makeover show, of opening people's eyes to hidden depths and dimensions of meaning. You can serve the function yourself in everyday life. Let's get some quick practice in being a critic. Later in this book, we will learn in more detail the discipline of methods and techniques that can make us critics. But for the moment, try this exercise. Think about a text you have experienced, a cable show, a movie, song, or internet site that was a fairy tale in disguise. Okay.
Ooh.
Cinderella.
Come on, Cinderella. Take a deep breath.
Okay.
No, take a deep breath. And for real though, like, and one thing.
This is what I don't want. I don't want nobody to feel sorry.
No. Okay, yeah, but I'm not talking about that.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm not talking about that. I want you to go ahead and build what you're building on. But I just want to say this first. When you read, it's like you exercising your brain. It's like a workout. It really is. You working your eyes out. You working your brain. You know
That's what we was talking about earlier.
Yeah, you working these things. That's why a lot of people don't like to read.
Especially close reading.
Yeah, because we late. But see, here's the thing though. That's why I'm saying. I'm glad you said that. here's the thing. Everybody don't have to do everything everybody else is doing. See what I'm saying? That's the system we're in. We're the system of confusion because it forces too many things on us. When if you love what you're doing, like if what you were reading about was something that you love, you would have been like 2-3 chapters further along. You know what I'm saying? But that's like a labor. Like you were laboring to do that. You were giving birth to a concept, to context. And Cinderella's the perfect example. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna keep it real. I would say, we haven't read this book yet. You see what I'm saying? And we should have already read it. You know, well, she definitely should have already read it. But I'm her husband, so I'll take the fall. See if a quarterback he can't blame the receiver. So what I'm saying is this, man. I watched how when she read it just now, considering the circumstances of falling behind, I seen the enlightenment, and then I've heard numerous things said like the word vampire. Well, I haven't even read this yet. Vampire, Cinderella. This is incredible. Now, she ain't read it either. She's supposed to have, and I'm supposed to make sure she could have by performing walking on water, by taking care of 5 children and 4 children and you know, yeah. But anyway, I missed that. My fault. Watch it. Cinderella. Keep it real. In this context, though, if you can keep it in this context, that way nobody gonna feel sorry for you. Because you say you don't want nobody to feel sorry for you. So you don't want nobody to feel sorry for you, keep it in this context. What we've been reading, what we've been going through, close reading. Mm-hmm. Now, with the one word, close reading, why did Cinderella stick out to you?
Because I've experienced similarities or some of the things that the character Cinderella experienced. But I can also identify, I think I can also identify with Snow White. But, you know, just with the people that I've been talking about in my family, I just feel like, you know, there was a lot of instances where I had to put them first. Like I had to labor and not really reap the benefits, or get the equal opportunity of the other sisters that was going to the ball. The other sisters, like they made, like, get Cinderella to do it. Like, so.
All right, but check this out. At the end of Cinderella, she gets the king, because I ain't no prince. You got plenty of prince's sons. She gets the king, but here's the thing though. She wasn't kin to them. She wasn't their sister. Nope. Does anybody know that about Cinderella?
Oh, she wasn't?
No.
No, she looked different from them, didn't she?
Yeah, she was definitely different from them. But looks ain't what I'm talking about.
I know.
It's the fact that every step of the way they sabotage you. They didn't want you to hit the street. See, in the movie Cinderella, they kept her busy so she couldn't get outside. See, if she never got back to Tallahassee, she might not never figured out that she was not really who y'all say she is. We know she's Darlene's daughter because it's mama's baby and daddy's maybe. So is that why y'all treated her like that? Is that why Anshe was cool to abuse you and mess with you? I don't care if he's psychotic or not. He knew who not to mess with. He ain't running around pulling every girl's hair out of her scalp that he put in. See, I bring it up because I ain't saying he tore it out. I'm saying he convinced you to put it in and then tore it out. That was intentional. You see what I'm saying? Is that why Ashanti can let you breastfeed her and don't care about you? You're 11 years old. Nobody can say it was sick or messed up or nothing. You was 11. You know what to do. And you didn't know where your daddy was while he left y'all in that car. Now, Ashanti's his daughter. That's what we know that for a fact. That's what he said. You left her in the car, but damn, Cinderella, you had it really bad. You know what I'm saying? Okay, now who's next? Shaquita, you like to beat on her, talk down on her. Anytime she was about ready to make a successful move, you sabotaged her. Like graduating from high school. Who sabotaged their daughter from graduating from high school? She had to live with total strangers, and she still graduated. Just imagine if you would have showed a little bit more compassion. But your whole objective was to keep her from ever making it. Keep her under your wing, always subservient to you, and whatever your intention or endeavors were. And you really need to ask yourself why. Because for real, if y'all knew that Samira wasn't his son, if y'all knew that Samira was not his daughter, I would say that's child enslavement. You know how they adopt children from other countries and say, oh, we're going to be their mom and their daddy, and they turn out to be the maid? Or the babysitter? Now, you ain't going to never want that person to get out and start speaking English. Oh, this is so deep, this book. Because it said, what if you was in another country and you barely understood English and you didn't know other people's gestures? Ain't that what it said? Oh, watch it from the beginning, because I'm cold. I'm very intelligent because I don't forget nothing. So it's quite interesting to me that your dad would point at Shaquita when you got your accreditation. The only one, mind you. He said that she should have gave you an opportunity. No, she's not her mother. And from what you said, I don't think you're her dad. To point the finger at your ex-wife or business partner or whatever. Okay. So I'm going to tell y'all why Cinderella stuck out to me, because that's what I called her. When I finally found out that the woman that I knew who worked at a nursing home, well, I met her at a daycare, so she was changing diapers and drawers there. She was wiping butts there. And all throughout our friendship, she worked at a nursing home. She was wiping butts there. So she definitely proved integrity, because it ain't one story about her doing anything corrupt at that daycare. But I wouldn't be too sure about corruption amongst the rest of y'all. Then the whole daycare get closed down in Eastern.
Okay. So it said,
Come on, finish chapter 1 so we can end this video. So we can end this fight. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to keep it real. I'm not obsessed with y'all. Y'all just hit me in the back. Like, I don't like being hit from behind. You know what I'm saying? I don't like somebody. If you want to fight me straight up. You might have a chance. But you hit me from behind, Lord forgive you. Lord forgive you.
think about a text you have experienced that was a fairy tale in disguise. Of course, you'll have to think about what makes something a fairy tale, even if it is in disguise. That is, even if it's not really about witches and elves and fairies and dark forests and so forth, it's still a fairy tale.
Oh, wow, man.
No fair saying what you watched in Dark Forest. No fair saying that you watched a Netflix of Little Red Riding Hood on that last visit to your little cousins. We already know that's a fairy tale. You don't need to do a close reading to realize that.
Hold on, babe. I just figured something out. Okay. If your little brother used you to further his agenda, and your dad did the same thing when he said he was helping you with your music career. He was doing the same thing. He was using you to get what he wanted.
How's that?
How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, little Frankie wanted to do an operation. He used you because he knew you knew people, right? Okay, boom. He knew that people knew you and they would give him some credibility. Boom. He knew that. Your dad gave you an opportunity to music, so-called opportunity to music, but he didn't pay the publicist, so we know it was a setup. You know, you could have paid the publicist instead of taking her to that New York event, which was probably pretty much a black tie plate affair. I mean, all the Masons and Eastern Stars was there. And she got video sweeping the whole crowd. Oh, check this out. And then, on top of it, you know what I'm saying, you were supposed to be doing something somewhere else totally different that you were supposed to pay for while you said you were supporting her. He just put himself in positions. See, you wasn't the only one that got nominated for a Grammy. You see how he slid his little hook in her? Hands up. You think you slick. Did Puff Daddy teach you that? Because that's how he got Biggie's lyrics, by mumbling in the background or saying something on a hook. So not only was you going to use her, if she made it, you was going to use her, but when you figured she was going to make it, you sabotaged her. Is that what you did, little Frankie? You did the same thing? Oh, boy. Birds with no wings so become snakes.
Okay.
Like father, like son.
Let me give you a hint. How do some of the Star Wars movies, especially the first one, begin? Why? With these words: a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Now, what does that sound like? Does the parallel to fairy tales continue throughout that and other movies? Nope, fair using this example. You got it for free, so find another one. What some other text you have seen recently that is a fairy tale in disguise, and why is it one? Now let's think about what good it does to say that such and such a text is a fairy tale in disguise. When you have shared the insight with others, even when you have arrived at an insight yourself, what have you and others learned?
That's what Camille said.
How are your lives enriched? Think about these things.
That's what Camille said.
Mm-hmm. New meanings you can see in the text that you couldn't see before, enabled by that statement. If you start to develop the idea of what it means to be a fairy tale, do even more new meanings begin to surface out of the text? The possible fruitlessness of asking the fairy tale question about other texts. The possible fruitfulness of asking similar questions about other texts. The possibility of new ways to think or act, even small ones, that you or your friends might gain from the insights you have had. What difference in your lives might those insights create? The more enthusiastically and thoroughly you have acted like a critic, the more you will see how your thinking about these issues reveals insights and has the potential to make a difference. That such benefits might befall other people. Two is the reason why people would want to engage in critique and communicate their insights to others. The question might reasonably arise: why do we need close readers and critics to discover socially shared meanings? In other words, if the meanings are socially shared, won't people already know about them? What really does a critical close reader do that the average person on the street does not do? I argue that the close reading critic reveals meanings that are shared but not universally, and are also meanings that are known but not articulated. The benefit of revealing such meanings is to teach or enlighten those who hear or read the critique. First, just because social meanings are shared does not mean they are universally shared. A critical, close reader is able to expand people's knowledge of socially shared meanings by calling their attention to meanings that not everyone shares. A former student and friend of mine who is gay once told me that the X-Men series of movies is actually about the theme of coming out or revealing one's sexuality to a sometimes hostile world. This friend told me he thought that most gay and lesbian people would find such meanings there. He explained that many of the themes of the films have to do with the choices to reveal or not to reveal um, dip, ones have special powers. Hold on. He explained that many of the themes of the films have to do with choices to reveal or not to reveal one's difference and with how to handle the consequences of others knowing that you have special powers. I had no idea. Since he called my attention to those meanings, seeing the X-Men films again has confirmed this close reading for me. I now see meanings that I would not have seen before. The more this student shares his critical close readings with others, the more widely the net expands of people who will know to find those meanings in those films. A critical close reader is also able to call to people's attention meanings that they know but have not articulated. Sometimes we know those meanings at a level that is nearly subconscious, but the critical close reader can help us to recover what we at some level already know. All of us have had the experience of having a vague hunch about a text, a public figure, or event, a feeling that something is going on beyond what meets the eye, but we haven't quite been able to put it into words. Think of the movie you want to watch again and again but cannot explain why. Think of the political leader you mistrust but cannot say why. Think of the television evangelist you trust but cannot say why. Critical close readers are good at helping people clarify the socially shared meanings generated by these texts. Both of these ways in which the close reading critic reveals socially shared meanings to us are epistemological. Since epistemological is relating to the theory of knowledge, especially with regard to its methods, validity, and scope, and the distinction between justified belief and opinion. Relating to the theory of knowledge, especially with regard to its methods, validity, and scope, and the distinction between justified belief and opinion. And that is epistemological. They are ways of arriving at knowledge. The epistemology or logic of knowing that critical close reading depends on is based on teaching and plausibility. The critical close reader is a teacher of those who read or hear the critique. The critic's job is to uncover these meanings in such a way that people have an aha moment in which they suddenly agree to the reading. The meanings in the critique suggest suddenly come into focus. The meanings seem plausible to the hearer or reader. The standard of success for the close reader, who is also a critic, or therefore enlightenment, insights, and agreement of those who hear or read what he or she has to say. The calling to be a critic. Some people have what you might say is a kind of calling or some people have what you might say is a kind of calling or vocation to be a critic. People refer to a calling or vocation in describing the feeling of commitment held by those who enter religious orders who devote their lives to spiritual work and service. But those terms have application beyond religious context. You might say that some really has a calling to be a baker, or someone might tell you that he or she works in a grocery store, but that his or her vocation is to be a poet. An important dimension of a calling is that it never leaves you. If you have a calling to be an architect, then you are nearly always thinking about structures, shapes, and designs. You move through the world studying buildings. If your vocation is to be if your job is to be a small engine mechanic, you might stop being a mechanic at 5 p.m. and become something else. But if your calling or vocation is to be a small engine mechanic, you go home to study journals and magazines on engineer part repair. You go online to find blogs or websites of other mechanics, and you take an interest in your neighbor's bulky lawnmower. Being a critic can be a kind of calling. Most committed critics are not professional. They are just committed to close reading, to pay attention. The really good critics are always on the lookout for messages and experiences that repay a close reading. Not all experiences do, of course. You get tired pretty quickly of giving careful attention to the back of a soup can, but many of life's everyday messages and experiences do repay a close reading. A true critic, in the sense, is often on, always thinking about ways in which the extra attention of close reading might reveal meanings and dimensions of books and movies, television shows, and so forth. The critic is often on because of a conviction that the meaning of messages and experiences are important. The critic assumes that the music video, this movie, or the wedding ceremony is influencing or affecting people, and that the meanings one can find in those experiences are key to that influence. The critic wants to know about these often complex dimensions of meanings, because understanding them is a way to understand how our attitudes, actions, and perceptions and predispositions are formed. The critic is on a mission to inform self and others about what messages and experiences are doing to us, so as to shape how we think and act. An important part of a critic's calling is the openness to consider a wide range of texts and commitment to devote the attention and energy of close reading to texts that will repay the effort. We should be open to the possibility that the label on a soup can, to use an earlier example, might repay close reading, that we might find some interesting meanings and important possible influences on that soup can. But if an attempt at close reading fails to show such wonders on the soup can label, the critic will also give it up, reserving the efforts for texts that are rich enough or deep enough to repay a critic's attention. The concern with how people are influenced is sometimes summed up under the term rhetoric. Rhetoric is an ancient term denoting the study of ways in which people are persuaded or influenced. Throughout history, people have been influenced in different ways, from public speaking to advertisements to political debates, and the study of rhetoric has included all of these cumulative experiences. One can be a critic and want to know about many different dimensions of messages and experiences. Aesthetic dimensions, psychological dimensions, and so forth. But if you want to know more about what messages and experiences mean, because you are interested in how people's thoughts and actions are influenced, how people are persuaded, then you are a rhetorical critic. The calling of the rhetorical critic then becomes a mission to say to self and others, look, this movie, this song on this disc supports these meanings that you may not have thought of before. For instance, I just took a break from writing after that last paragraph and walked through my living room where my daughter had the television on. A commercial for bottled water was proclaiming, "The best things in life are pure." Now, the casual reader of that advertisement might shrug and say, "Yes, I guess so, whatever." Which, of course, is what the sellers of the water want people to do. I stopped and spent some time reading the simple phrase in my head closely. I think there are some meanings in there that we need to be aware of and think about, and they cause me to wonder. What does pure mean? Does it mean composed of all one thing? If something different enters into the nature of a thing, does that make it impure? What does this mean in regard of people or more than one racial background? Does it mean them impure? What does this mean in regard to complicated questions, such as whether or in what way to go to war? If someone thinks the matter is not simple but has more contradictory issues wrapped up together, is that impure thinking? Suppose we have a population that is trained by television commercials like that one to think that pure equals simple and thus the simple equals good. Would the population think of the world in black and white terms with no shades of gray and so on and so forth? As a critic, I often think about what experiences and messages mean because I think that their meanings affect people in powerful ways, and if I get the chance, I'll share these insights with others because I want them to see the text in their lives more richly. In fact, I just did that with you. Here's another example. I was online and found a link to a movie review. The title suggested that the reviewer tries to find deeper meaning in the Atomic Blonde movie. That reviewer must be a critic, someone interested in telling the public about movies and what they mean. Of course, the public itself is fully capable of going to the movies and reading them, but someone who is offering up deeper meaning is going to do a close reading of a movie than is the guy sitting there with his feet up enjoying the popcorn. The reviewer is a professional critic and gets paid for close readings. Most critics do not get paid money for close readings. As a calling, it becomes woven into one's way of life to probe into messages and share those deeper meanings with others. That is the kind of habit this book wants to encourage you to take up, to be always ready for a close reading, to become a critic. If one is not paid a salary for doing it, then one is paid in enlightenment and the ability to see deeper levels of meanings and to share those insights with others. To be a rhetorical critic gives us another level of understanding of the concept of meaning. Earlier, we defined meaning as the thoughts, feelings, and associations that are suggested by words, images, objects, actions, and messages. If your interests are rhetorical, then you also think of meaning as what words, images, objects, actions, and messages do to people's thoughts, motives, attitudes, and predispositions. If I refer to a certain political candidate as a dog, then the meaning of the dog that I am attaching to that candidate will be what my statement does to you. To think rhetorically is to think of meaning as powerful, as affecting people. Of course, that is another important reason to be a critic for yourself and others, so you can help people understand what texts are doing to them. Social justice. People who people who feel a calling to be a critic, who feel a vocation to do so, are usually concerned with the social justice. By that I mean that such critics often have a sense that our society is unjust, unfair, unequitable, and not a level playing field. Most critics concerned with social justice will focus on one or a few issues of injustice that particularly trouble them. Nobody can take on every issue of this sort. Issues of social justice that concern critics have to do with age, race, sexual identity, gender, economic status, language differences, national origin differences, and so forth. Critics focus on one or a few of these categories to show how injustice is communicated by text. What are you doing?
Tilly told me to come in here and get some tea.
Did you find it?
You know, he told me it's on top of the toolbox. So it's on top of here.
Behind that commitment to show injustice is text is an understanding that power differences in any society are ultimately text-based. Sometimes power inequities are enforced by violence or the threats of violence, either from the state, the police, or other groups in society. But the actual use of violence is expensive and embarrassing, for it exposes inequities that benefit certain groups who wield that power. Social injustice is more often perpetrated through everyday texts that constantly reinforce certain ways of seeing the world. Critics work to uncover those texts and to suggest different ways of speaking and writing that would contribute to a just society. That means that the people are often recruited by text to agree to their own disempowerment. If texts create a sense in certain people that injustice is natural, is just the way things are, then injustice can especially be perpetrated textually instead of through violence. This condition of empowered people enjoying the corporation of the disempowered has been called hegemony. Hegemony by some classic um, Marxist theorists such as Louis Althusser and Antonio Gramsci. Hegemony. Hegemony. I don't know how to pronounce that. Let me see. Hegemony is a leadership or dominance, especially by one country or social group over others. So, dominance over others. Okay. Critics work to expose hegemony, hegemony, and then oppose it. I want to stress that social justice may be seen from many different political perspectives. Your idea of social justice may differ from mine. Your idea of oppression and how it works may differ. That's all right, so long as people called to be critics work to expose the textual means by which such oppression occurs, from critiquing to communicating. I have said several times that communicating results that the results of a close reading to other people is what turns a reader into a critic. In this section, I invite you to think creatively with a sense of possibilities about ways that you can function as a critic and thus communicate your insights to others. You may have a sense that there are indeed critics in this world, but only an elite few who write for magazines and newspapers and appear on television. Such people as professional movie or restaurant reviewers, political or opinion columnists, and the like. Columnists and the like. I don't know. You may have a sense that there are a few outlets for your own critical voice to be heard. Nothing could be further from the truth. Even before we begin to learn specific techniques of close reading, you need to understand that your voice can be heard in a variety of ways. Let's organize our survey of ways to be heard according to the media in which you might express yourself. You can be a critic on the internet, in print, or in person. Critiquing on the internet. Going online is a wonderful way to share your critiques with others. Potentially thousands, if not millions, of people might be informed by your insights on a global scale. There are at least 3 ways you can use this powerful medium to share your critiques with the world. First, you can create your own website. This is not necessarily free, especially if you want a high quality site and it might require a certain amount of technical skill. So, creating a website might be a less attractive option for some, but it is still a definite possibility for many others. On a website, you can put commentaries and illustrate them with visual images, link to other websites that might allow downloads of television or movie material and so forth. This lets you couple your critique with samples of the text that you might be critiquing, which may have more impact on your audience than a critique alone. How to set up a website is well beyond the scope of this book, but there are a number of resources online for finding out how to do it. You can go to a search engine such as www.google.com and simply type in create a website, and all sorts of currently available services will pop up for you to explore. Typing in that request at this writing generated many such services, of which these are but a few. DigitalXs.com, ToCreativeWebsite.com, iPage.com, Homestead.com. Sites such as Facebook allow fairly easy creation of a presence online. Go check it out. Second, you can start a blog, short for weblog, which is actually a very specific kind of website in which people can record their daily thoughts and reactions, post photos, and so forth. Many people treat their blogs as a sort of online diary. Blogs are widely read and have been invaluable sources of information for many people, as bloggers around the world keep the public informed about political and social developments and even natural disasters and upheavals. If there is a revolution, hurricane, or tsunami in some part of the world, people often seek other bloggers to find out what is going on from the perspective of the person on the street. For this reason, critics who share their views on blogs can find a ready audience. Once again, typing in create a blog on such an engine such as Google will yield a number of current services. At this writing, such a search found these sites, among many others: createblog.com, blogger.com, 6apart.com. Third, you can join a Usenet group, bulletin board, or discussion room and participate in ongoing discussions in which you can share your critiques. This is an especially useful tool for sharing quick, short insights. There are literally thousands of groups and websites that allow people to exchange messages on any subject, from politics to poodles to polo horse. Some groups are moderated with an individual or small group of people responsible for screening possible messages, while others are not. The moderated group tend to be more useful as they do not collect huge piles of spam that can get in the way of real discussions. Many websites host their own bulletin boards or discussion groups, which also function as small public places for discussion. One place to begin locating a group that would suit your interests is Google Groups, which at this writing may be found at groups.google.com. You can also look for chat room or bulletin board options on some of your favorite websites on any topic. All of these options for discussion groups, bulletin boards, chat rooms, and so forth are excellent places to share short, focused critiques. Critiquing in print. Many people may feel that they are shut out of sharing critiques with others in print. We read magazines and see nationally syndicated columns in newspapers, and some people may conclude that they can never participate in a discussion at that level. Although it is true that a few can become syndicated columnists who publish critiques on politics, entertainment, or sports in newspapers and magazines on a regular basis, those same printed media are very often open to general public. Take newspapers for instance. Most people accept letters to the editor or even lengthier opinion pieces written by members of the general public and publish some every day. These venues run the full gamut from local papers in small communities that may publish only once a week to such papers as the New York Times or the Houston Chronicle, which may have may have regional or national distribution. The likelihood of your critique begin being published in some kind of newspaper is much greater than you might think. Newspapers have the advantage of being timely. In fact, your critique should probably have something to do with current or cultural events that are happening in the moment. Even a week later can mean that the newspaper regards your critique as old news. Examine the newspaper that originate near you to see these opportunities might be. What these opportunities might be. Look at the editorial pages for letters and longer opinion pieces on topics of current interest. Look in the arts and entertainment pages for reviews written by readers on books, films, television shows, restaurants, and so forth. Many newspapers even publish letters on sports related subjects in the sports pages. Pay close attention to the styles and topics that are preferred by these newspapers, as these may vary considerably from paper to paper. Magazines are harder to be published in, but some may regard a critique published in a magazine as of higher status. Magazines often pay their contributors. You could be well on your way to fame and fortune as a regular writer. It is especially important to examine the magazine to which you intend to submit your work to get a sense of style and topics the magazine prefers. Magazines tend to be more specialized than newspapers, so your critique will need to be a close match to the interest of the publication to which you will submit your work. There are several ways to start. You can't do better than to go to a local newsstand or even a magazine rack in a nearby library, grocery, or drugstore stand, or a drugstore, newsstand, or even a magazine rack in a nearby library, grocery store to examine the array of likely magazines. You could also go online to the Writer's Digest website or to find a hard copy in a bookstore. Writer's Digest is a useful guide to a wide range of magazines, and it also contains helpful advice on how to write and publish in magazines. You can get good information on how to publish in magazines and other venues, as well as good feedback from others interested in critiques by looking for local or regional writers association. These groups often host workshops on how to publish. They often host short courses on writing that can strengthen your critiquing skills. Just a few examples include Writers Association in Southern California, Texas, and New York. Think also about newsletters or bulletins that may be locally produced for every small audiences. A school or neighborhood association newspaper, the bulletin or a newsletter for a church, synagogue, or mosque, or the local publication of a social or civic club might be an outlet for critiques of a very focused sort. It helps if you are a member of the organization putting out the publication. Many of you may be reading this book in connection with a class, and sharing a critique with your instructor in writing may be a class assignment. Think of this as a good opportunity to influence the instructor at least. It is also a good practice session for developing a critique that you might share with a wider audience. Reading your critique to others may even be part of a class exercise. You may well have the chance to influence several others just in class through your writing. I'm almost finished. This is the last page. Critiquing in person. The best place for you to practice being a critic may be in person. In your everyday life interactions with friends, family, and co-workers. This is especially true if you develop the calling to be a critic. You will always be thinking about what messages mean, and you will instinctively be doing close readings while watching television or movies. You can critique important memos or emails at work. You can help your relatives understand what another relative is saying by unpacking his or her spoken and nonverbal text. Or, of course, you want to observe the rules of proper behavior and good taste in all this. Few people like someone who is critiquing every minute of the day. But if done in the context of sharing insights with others, a critic based on the habit of close reading can become a way of being for you. Okay. So that was chapter 1. Techniques of Close Reading, second edition, Barry Brummett. We got through it. We got over it. And we're going to let it marinate. I'll be back with chapter 2. But for now, just process it and let it marinate. And remember, optimal health is wealth. Peace.